What's up, everyone? I have a very special guest today. Most of you know Eric Crocker. This is Eric Crocker. He's from Stockton. He moved to Arkansas. He played for the Jets. He's all over 49ers Twitter, and he's doing me a favor by coming on my channel. You should do him a favor and me a favor by subscribing to his channel. He just started it. The link's in the description. Eric, thanks for coming on. First of all.
Oh man, thanks for having me on, man. You're the big dog in the 49ers media.
I just got a 1 year head start on YouTube, and now you realize that it's the place to be for obvious reasons. But real quick, for the YouTube audience, because what I've realized is people on YouTube are different from people on Twitter. There's very little crossover. So the YouTube people who don't know you, tell them who you are. I didn't know that you moved to Arkansas. What are you building out there? What are you working on these days?
Yeah, so you know how hectic it could be, living in California, just the prices and everything. And my wife, she just finished all her she's actually like an LVN nurse, and she finished all her prereqs for the nursing program. So it's like a 1 year nursing program. And we were trying to figure out how to do it in California. It was tough because, living on one salary there, even in Stockton, where, we have a house and everything, it was just so expensive. So we were trying to figure out like how to do this. And I was like, you know what? How about we go back to where I went to college in Arkansas, which she had never lived out of California, I was like, I'm pretty sure they'll get you plugged into the nursing program. They have a great nursing program. I'll finish getting my degree, and we'll just be out there for a couple years and then come back home. So that was initially the plan. But once we came out here, me, being so involved in like sports performance training, I realized that there was like a huge market and no.
Is that your dog?
Hold on, my dog. Yeah. Huh?
Oh.
Okay, I'll fix it. Okay. But Daddy's busy right now. All right, so my wife's in Vegas right now, so it's just me and the baby.
Nice.
So there's this huge out there in California, it's so tough, like, to kind of get situated where everything, even sports performance training, which I've been doing for the last 5 years. And out here, they just don't have it because we're out here in the middle of the South, and they don't have people like me here. So I've been able to take full advantage of it. And the next step was just actually building my own athletic training facility, my own sports training facility. So I started off in a smaller place, which is about 2,500, 3,000 square feet. And then now, like, I just grew out of it too quick. So the next step was, all right, let's just go all in on it. So I don't know if I'm ever coming back.
That's so cool. So it seems like, I don't know you that well, but it seems like you're a natural teacher and a natural entrepreneur. Like, you're always working on a business project, which is inspirational. I mean, everyone in Niners Twitter is trying to be as enterprising as you. So that's cool stuff, dude.
Yeah, you just gotta figure out, I think now, like, more than ever, and you understand this, like, you can utilize social media to do things that you love and you're passionate about. So like, I've never been passionate about working for other people or sitting at a desk, or what I'm saying? Like, I like, that's just not really like my thing. So it's just like, dude, like, just put your mind and your focus into like these different things and just build it up. And I understand just me being able to make it to the NFL, like the process in which that was, which was crazy. But I learned a valuable lesson about like just working hard, taking your time, figuring it out, like, you know what I'm saying? And that just kind of let me know, like, anything you do is always going to start off where nobody's going to believe in it. Nobody's going to understand it. Sure. But as long as you do the work over time, it might be, 2 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, but eventually it'll pay off. So I've learned a lot about patience.
Yeah, you're inspirational to all the aspiring Niner bloggers. And just so you know, I think but everyone thinks you're going to make it, man. Everyone's like, Croc's going to be on ESPN. He's going to bust. He's going to make it. So, hey, subscribe to his YouTube channel while it still has less than 1,000 subscribers. All right, that's enough plugging Croc. He doesn't need any more help. Let's talk quarterbacks. The Niners are going to Justin Fields' Pro Day on Wednesday, and it's almost like a private workout for the 49ers. If you don't know Crocker's big on the Justin Fields train. So what I would like to ask you is, not should they, because I know you think they should, but will they draft Justin Fields? Best prediction, why or why not?
In my like deep down in my core, I don't think so.
Okay.
Deep down in my core, I feel like it's between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. That's just kind of a feeling I have, like, and I don't know why. And the crazy thing is, if I were gonna give up a whole lot of draft capital and trade up, it wouldn't be for Trey Lance or Mac Jones. But I feel like that's kind of the route. I just getting that sense, just kind of hearing how people are talking and the changing the tunes and trying to piece things together. I feel like they're trying to decide between those two, and I don't think they know exactly which way they want to go just yet. I think they have an idea, but that's kind of my heart. And I love Fields in the sense of like what he could be. You know, I think we look at a lot of guys like, you know, Deshaun Watson and all these other guys where we see what they've become. But if you kind of go back and you look at like even the Deshaun Watson scouting report, there were a lot of things that people had questions about. There were a lot of things that they were like, well, he doesn't do this well, or he doesn't do this well.
Threw a lot of picks.
Threw a lot of interceptions. He turned the ball over a lot.
That was the thing at Clemson. Yeah,
he got outdueled by Nathan Peterman. People were
looking for reasons to knock him, and then he fell. Yeah, they were knocking
him, and it fell to 12. And there were a lot of people mocking him in the 20s. But then you see what he's become, and you see this polarizing quarterback who's, you know, considered top 5, top 6, top 7 guy. He's young, he's athletic, he's throwing a deep ball. He does all these things, and it's like, man, let's not overthink things. Can we coach him up? And I think he went to a situation. However you feel about Bill O'Brien, he was a good coach. Now he was a terrible GM, but he was a good coach. And I thought Watson went to the situation, a good situation for him, to where he could excel and kind of do things, you know, where it's like meeting his maximum potential. That was a great landing spot for him, and you see it pay off. I look at somebody like Fields, and I'm like, man, I could see Fields being that guy where there are things where, you know, he's not perfect here, he's not perfect there, but he is the ultimate playmaker. He has the ultimate ability. Now let's just try to work and put it all together, you know. And I think that would be great. But again, something in my heart just saying they're not going that way at all. It's either Mac Jones or Trey Lance.
Well, think about this. Everyone's saying, you know, will the Niners pass on Justin Fields or take him? What about the Jets? What about the Jets? It seems to me like everyone expects the Jets to take Zach Wilson, but dude, Zach Wilson is a kid from Utah who's never really faced scrutiny like Justin Fields has been facing since high school. I mean, people have been picking apart Justin Fields since he was 17. And that's what's going to happen to any quarterback that gets drafted by – you play for the Jets. You know how much scrutiny Mark Sanchez and Geno Smith – it's really hard.
I was there for the transition between Mark Sanchez, because I was there. When Geno got drafted, I was there. So I was there before because I reported for OTAs, and then, you know, the draft happens after that. So I saw it when it was just like Mark Sanchez, and then boom, I see draft day and kind of the dynamics of how that kind of swung things and just how awkward it was and the weirdness of the whole situation. I was there for all that.
I think it takes a particular type of quarterback to work on the Jets or the Giants. Like, it's so much pressure and scrutiny. And I feel like Justin Fields has been handling that a long time. Zach Wilson never has. I don't know that Zach Wilson necessarily is the best fit for the Jets. And all these people saying great things about Justin Fields, like Richie Sherman. Why wouldn't Robert Saleh feel that way? I feel like Justin Fields could go number 2, although it seems like that's everyone in New York thinks it's not going to happen. It's going to be the Zach Wilson.
It sounds like that's what they're giving you. Like, I mean, you know, when you the GM and just like the vibes of, oh, you know, hanging out with his family or, you know, kind of building that where it's just like it's a done deal. But I'm with you. I don't think that Zach Wilson, where I do think he has a lot of ability, I think there are a ton of question marks. One, he's had injury issues, right? Which nobody talks about. But, you know, you start talking about a labrum and shoulder and all that, rotator, whatever it was.
Scary.
I feel like that is a scary thing, a big deal. The level of competition, no matter how I put out the question the other day, like, hey, what's the difference between Drew Lock and Zach Wilson? And the most consistent response I got was, accuracy and decision-making, right? Which they didn't say anything about the ability. It was more so accuracy.
Really good question. No, the only difference is the running, man. Zach Wilson's quick. He's quick.
But it's easier to be quick and be able to showcase that in your decision-making and your accuracy when you're going up against North Alabama as opposed to Alabama's defense, as opposed to LSU's defense. Like they're playing more man coverage, or playing tighter coverage, or playing against elite secondary guys, where when you look at Zach Wilson, a lot of his stuff is just, I'm just going to throw it up, 50-50 ball. My guys jump up, they make plays. Are your guys making those same plays against LSU and Alabama? And that was kind of what Drew Lock went up against, right? Where now you can't run. You're not running away from the defensive ends from Alabama. You're not running away from the defensive ends from LSU. Zach Wilson hasn't necessarily had to deal with that. And when he has in the previous year,
hasn't gone great.
It wasn't great, you know. And again, I think he has terrific ability. I think he is like accurate. I think he does all these things, but
yeah.
I gotta see, I just have some questions as opposed to like, Fields where there are some questions on just like, hey, can he become a better processor? But it's not, there aren't questions
about
big
enough?
Is he
can
big
he
enough?
Handle
is he
like
athletic enough?
NFL speed? Because when you watch freaking Zach Wilson, he looks like Kyler, but he's not going to look like Kyler in the NFL. He's not anywhere near Kyler's level of athleticism. Right. So what's he going to be? I know early on in the process we compared him to Johnny Manziel. That's probably not fair, but in terms of just raw athleticism, he's more on closer to Johnny, I would say.
Right.
All right, let's go to another thing. The Kyle Pitts thing. I can hear the argument for Fields. Some people like Lance a lot. Some people like Mac Jones. I like all of them to an extent, and I have questions about all of them. And I keep going back to Kyle Pitts because I really think that he's like the Bo Jackson of tight ends. I think he's special. Bucky Brooks said he's the best player in the draft, and I kind of agree. Do you think it would be crazy if the Niners took him? I mean, you don't trade up for him, but they're there now.
I would say it's only crazy because of the capital they spent to move up. And I feel like it wouldn't be crazy if they were
just there.
They were more certain about their quarterback position. Yeah. I think he's the best tight end prospect I've seen. And I know a lot of people say, going back to Vernon Davis, who was physically a freak numbers wise, but he wasn't the receiver. He wasn't the fluid, athletic, receiver with those terrific ball skills. You weren't getting that from Vernon Davis. So I've seen a lot of people like, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith and all that, and they're terrific prospects, but there's no way I'm taking any receiver in the top 10, especially over somebody like Pitts if he's there, because throughout the draft, we're seeing more than ever now. Guys are productive no matter where you draft them. Guys are, whether it's first round, like, the teens, the 20s, the, second round, third round, Terry McLaurin, you're getting guys that are coming in that are extremely productive. Tight ends, you're not getting guys, especially that look like this, that play like this, that are that type of mismatch and matchup problems, and that does it all. And he blocks well, even though they try to knock him for that. I think because he's so good of a pass catcher.
Because there's nothing you can knock.
Yeah,
you gotta find something.
I would say if quarterback wasn't such a big need for the 49ers, then definitely that tight end position would be something that would be very intriguing. It's
like, imagine in the red zone, you got Ayuk on one side, Pitts on another. I mean, the two of the biggest wingspans on the team. And then in the flat, you got to worry about Kittle and Debo and Mostert. It just seems like Josh Rosen could look good with that offense. Like a lot of quarterbacks, anyone who could stay healthy could do so. I mean, if Jimmy Garoppolo could stay healthy, although we don't know if he can, he looked pretty good throwing to Kyle Pitts. Kyle Trask looked good throwing to him.
But Jimmy, so the tough thing with Jimmy is, I feel like it has to be within rhythm and timing, and he hasn't been great at like throwing the contested passes. I think people think you could just like throw up contested passes to guys, and that's not really how it works. Like you do, if you want your guys to win these contested matchups, the ball has to be in a certain type of location, and you have to be comfortable throwing that. And it just seems like that's something. Again, I don't want to dog Jimmy, but that just doesn't seem like something Jimmy has been comfortable with doing. Like, just think about the last 4 years, or since he first started taking snaps for 49ers. Have we ever seen him throw a back shoulder pass ever? And like ever.
No.
Ever. I can't recall one time them throwing the back shoulder. And a lot of that comes with like just the confidence within yourself and the ability. I do think he has a lot of confidence in the scheme in which Kyle has kind of drawn up for him. But as far as like doing things that are a little bit more off script, where it's going to take like a certain level of confidence in your ability to make this type of throw downfield, he has not shown to be that guy. Not saying he can't be, but I haven't seen it. And when you have a guy like Pitts, you want to be able to take advantage of that. And I just don't think he's been that guy. Kyle Trask is that guy, right?
Yeah, the thing about Kyle Trask is he knows how to actually attack one-on-one matchups down the field. He puts the ball in the right spot. Yeah.
Big time.
Yep. So so if they were to take Kyle Pitts, you would still have to take a quarterback in the draft. So that makes me to my next question. Are there any day 2 or day 3 quarterback prospects that intrigue you at all? And if so, who?
Yeah. Okay. Definitely Davis Mills. And I know people talking about, but this is why. This is why when I watch Davis Mills, I think the biggest issue with him, I mean, outside of maybe lack of experience, playing experience, which might lead to this, but his decision making is kind of Jimmy G-ish,
Right. He's had some picks, some 3-pick games. Yeah.
I think if you just watch him off of play action, you watch him play in rhythm, you watch the accuracy, the arm, like he's athletic enough for sure. When you just watch those things, I think he does all those things well. And it's like, dang, I could see some really good upside, right? Like we talk about Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is like a more polished version of Mills, but Mills is even more like, I think has better traits, high-end traits in the sense of arm strength, athletic ability, but he just doesn't, he's not great with the decision making. I think that's his biggest issue right now. Just knowing, hey, I can't squeeze this in here because this guy's coming over here. Just those type of things. And
but that's a function of lack of reps and playing at Stanford. It's not like he was at Stanford 10 years ago. I mean, imagine if he had gone to Alabama and got to throw to those first round picks.
Right. So, there's that too. So, but it's in the sense of, if there's a guy where I feel like, hey, I want to draft and really develop this guy and I could still like have a high end payoff, I think it would be him. So if we were to take somebody like Pitts at 3 and I got Davis Mills, I definitely got to go with Jimmy G all year. But I strongly believe with him more so than ever, and it only took a couple games of watching him and kind of understanding what some of his issues were. It's not an ability thing. It's just like a rep thing. That's what it looked like to me. So, and when you hear his head coach say, hey, if he were to stay in college another year and come out next year, I think he'd be the #1 overall pick. Like that's what he was thinking. He'd be a top guy. So it is more so of, hey, this guy just needs a little bit of reps and a little bit of fine tuning if he can get that. And I think the things that he's doing, playing under center, turning his back, the play action, turning his back to a defense, getting back around, being accurate with his passes, like, man, he's like tailor-made for what we've seen from Kyle in the last couple of years with the 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely. And what people don't realize about Davis Mills if they haven't watched him is he's physically gifted. He was the #1 quarterback prospect coming out of high school. He could have gone wherever he wanted. He got an offer to go to Stanford. Usually that's the smart thing to do. It worked for Andrew Luck. It's a great school, but that program isn't what it used to be. There's a reason why he left right now. I mean, it's not helping him to be there.
Right.
So if he had gone to anywhere else, he might be a big time prospect, but he didn't. And so you can get him later on in the draft. And the way I look at him is he's just as physically gifted as Rosen, if not more. I mean, he can run
more.
Yeah,
I think he's bigger. Rosen was a little frail, and I don't think his arm was as big as he did have a good arm coming out. He definitely wasn't able to make plays with his legs. Where Davis Mills, you see him, he really gives you everything. It's just the lack of experience and sometimes the boneheaded decisions. Outside of that, like when you just watch him, especially playing rhythm and watch him get the ball out of his hands, everything looks really good. It looks really good. Just needs a little bit more reps.
Let me ask you real quick before we move on. My two sleeper quarterback prospects are Kellen Mond and Kyle Trask. Do you see either one going in round 1 or do you like either one?
So if I've watched a good deal of both of them, not from an evaluation standpoint, but just kind of watching them, like watching their games and everything. And I know just my initial takeaways from both guys with Kyle Trask, a lot of it was like, damn, I think he has the best ball placement out of anybody in this class. I thought his ball placement was terrific. I think what he lacks for the most part, and at least what it looks like, is he doesn't have much velocity on his throws. And I know they said that about Deshaun Watson, but this looks different, like where everything kind of floats. And I'm like, well, he's going to get into some trouble trying to throw passes like that in the NFL and not have Pitts to bail you out. So then you watch him in the bowl game and he threw the first pass. It was a deep out. And I was like, God, that took forever to get there.
Yeah.
And then the very next play, it was the same thing. Threw a deep out, boom, pick 6. And it's just like, well, that's bound to happen because he doesn't throw. The balls don't jump out of his hands. They don't jump on his target. So I think in the NFL, he's physically gifted in the sense of his size, but I think that can hurt him. And then just his like ability to kind of move a little bit more. He's like less than ideal. You know, you can have, obviously like you have some freaks, right, with Lance and those type of guys. Trevor Lawrence, freakish athlete. Justin Fields, you have those, and then you have Mac Jones, who isn't great, but it's doable. Like it's okay, I'm good with that. Like if he needs to take off for 8 yards, like he can, you know. And then you have Mills, which is just a little bit less than ideal. So that's another thing where I think might kind of drop him down to probably like second round, but he has a ton of reps. He has a ton of film. I think there are a lot of teams that are probably like what maybe he can bring at the very least as a good backup and possible starter.
Okay, I'm gonna. This question's out of left field. Yesterday, I tweeted that I think Sam Darnold's a better quarterback than Mac Jones. I like Mac Jones, but I'm trying to think like Sam Darnold's 23. He still isn't 24. If he were in this draft, where would he slot? Where would he rank? And I think he would rank ahead of Mac on a lot of teams' boards, which got me thinking, what about Rosen? Where does Rosen rank in this draft? He's 24. Where do you think he would slot in this draft if he were in this draft?
I think he'd probably be in that, like, I'm trying to think, and we're looking at him as a pro, right? So like if you had this class of guys and you insert the pros already from what we know about them, is that what you're asking? Or are you asking as prospects?
I don't know what I'm asking, really. It's a tough one.
If we're asking as prospects.
Just in terms of traits, really, I guess not knowing what's happened as much in the NFL. Based on their traits,
If we're viewing them as prospects, I think he'd probably be ahead of, oh man, it's right there. This is a good class. He went, what, 4th in his class?
Yes.
Ahead of Lamar Jackson. But
yes, he went 4th.
I don't know. That's tough. He for sure wouldn't be in the top 4. And I think people would have Mac Jones ahead of him as well. I think Mac Jones would be ahead of him just because Mac Jones' film is so clean. Now, I have my questions with him as well. But as far as like
as a UCLA alumni, my question is, what would Mac look like if he went to my school? Because I know my school.
That's the thing. Yeah. And when you start talking about context, right? I brought it up with Zach Wilson and Drew Lock, right? Yes. You know, you look at your situations, no matter what people say, like, and I don't want to knock somebody because the team around them was really good, but at the end of the day, like when you're there and things are ideal for you more times than not, where you drop back and you just have plenty of time because you have like the best offensive line in college football. Right. You have the best weapons where even though you're underthrowing these 40-yard deep balls, you're underthrowing them, but you got Jalen Waddle who jumps out the building and jumps over somebody and catches a pass. Or you have Devontae Smith who you underthrew him on this route, but he jumps over somebody and makes a great play. And I think those are things where, you know, when you start to kind of look like, hey, what's this going to look like when he is pressured more, when he is a little bit more sped up mentally? I think that's where he might run into a little bit of trouble. I've seen him work well in the pocket. I watched him against Michigan last year, and I thought he did good, like against a good pass rush. But even then, like it's you would hope that your weapons are as good as what he has at Alabama, but more times than not, that's not going to be the case. If say he goes to 49ers, I love Debo, I love IU. You know, they are not Waddle, Smith. Right. You know, they're not as good as prospects as that.
Yes.
So he has some terrific guys that bailed him out, I thought, a lot, and guys that just, I'm just gonna run by guys, and he could trust that and just kind of just throw it up there. When you have to be more accurate, more precise with everything that you do, even with him, with what I've seen, it can get a little sketchy at times. And that's something, you know, you got to take into account that thing. So when you talk about Rosen being at UCLA, Rosen dealt with a lot of that where it wasn't perfect. Like who are his receivers? Like
I went to UCLA and I don't even know. I couldn't even name their names. I have no idea.
Right. So I mean, they may have had a running back real quick. Perkins,
Justin Herbert last year. Justin Herbert, Pac-12 dude, was the 3rd quarterback taken. He was on the worst team of the 3 and ended up having the best rookie year. I think in retrospect, it's like, of course he wasn't going to look as good at Oregon. Who was he throwing to? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The context, I think people, even with like Sam Darnold and him going from a situation where his redshirt freshman year, he was terrific. But it's like, I got Rodgers, who was solid receiver, got Juju, I got Rojo.
Jones.
You know? He had a good offensive line. I think one of his offensive linemen were one of the top picks. Like, and then the next year, and people give him, you know, he happy feet, bad decision. But it's like, well, now all of a sudden everything got kind of sped up on him. You know, the offensive line was trash. It was terrible. Yep. Watch him against Ohio State. Had zero chance against Ohio State. You know, his weapons, his best receiver was his name Deontay Burnett.
Oh, yeah. Whoever the hell that was.
That was like his best receiver. So it was like Burnett was like the only guy that he really had to throw the ball to. True. He's pressing. He's trying to just figure it out and make plays. And even then, he led them to a winning record. He did all those things. Then he goes to the Jets, where, again, a lot of pressing, one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I don't want to make excuses for him, but I think sometimes people look at people that like they fail or they become bust or whatever, and they just assume it's because this guy can't play the position. He can't play the quarterback position. And it's like, nah, like if you're drafted into these terrible situations, your chances of becoming successful dramatically decrease. I strongly believe no matter who the 49ers take at 3, I think they'll have some level of success because they're going to a solid situation with a good offensive-minded head coach that can at least help these guys. I mean, he made Nick Mullins look like
playmakers.
So, and then you got all the playmakers around you. So, like, I feel like that's an ideal situation. But you could take that same quarterback and put him on maybe Detroit with Dan Campbell as the head coach, and that quarterback looked terrible. So I think we got to start to look at some context a little bit with some of the places that these guys go.
And it's possible, like looking back to 2017, although Mahomes and Watson are so great, but it's possible whichever quarterback got drafted by the Bears was screwed, because the Bears are just like, it's like hell for quarterbacks. Anyway, that's enough quarterback discussion for the day. I want to get your thoughts on other positions, because I haven't done my homework this year. Usually I try to compete with Eric in scouting because Eric's the gold standard, and I try, but I just haven't done it this year. So I want to know. Let's start with receivers. I mean, when do you think the Niners ought to target a receiver, and who do you think would be a good one for them?
Oh, so the receiver position is, in my opinion, way worse than what people kind of how they view it.
Okay,
I think because the 49ers have put a lot of resources into that position, people think like it's a solidified spot where they don't have to worry about drafting receivers or whatever. But I'm like, man, Deebo Samuel is a good playmaker. Is he this pure receiver? No. I don't think so. Now you do have one with Brandon Ayuk, but even then, he's still young. He's developing. I think we saw a lot of promising moments from him. I think he's going to be just fine. But who else is there after that? So you kind of got like That's 1.5 receivers.
And people don't realize that Kendrick Bourne played almost 700 snaps last year. He played a lot, more than Juszczyk.
Yeah.
So that's a starter.
So now you look at that receiver position. I would go as high as the best player on my board. So if say people would say 49ers need receiver, cornerback, offensive line, edge rusher, right? Whoever's the best player on my board at that moment when I'm picking second round, I'm taking him. So whether it's receiver or corner or whatever, I'm taking them at that spot. And if it is receiver, there are a few guys that I think. There's one guy where I'm like, this is a pure receiver. I love him. He's going to be a top 5 guy for me, and that's Diami Brown from North Carolina.
Okay,
I think he's like terrific. I think he's terrific. You look
North
at
Carolina offense had amazing players apparently.
They had good players, but the issue is, and I didn't know this at first, but they were like, I'm like, man, this guy only runs like 3 routes, and you have to really dig deep. And people are like, oh, it's the same offensive coordinator from Ole Miss when DK Metcalf.
Oh, there you go. So it's a DK Metcalf thing all over again.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Yeah. But when you dig deep, I thought he did some terrific thing. Like, I love Diami Brown. I loved his game. That he was terrific. If you want to be, and he can win at every level, whether it's underneath, routes, slants, in the slot. He didn't do a whole lot. They didn't move him around, but I just saw his movement skills. Play on the outside. He's a vertical threat. He just runs by guys, or he can hit them with half steps, and he understands leverage and all that. So he's terrific from that standpoint. Good deep ball threat. And then there's other guys like Rondale Moore. That's probably the other guy that I would take with a receiver who is more of a pure slot, can do some of the things Debo does with the end around and all that. But he's really short. He's only 5'7". I think he's only 5'7", but he's extremely explosive, and he's a legit receiver from the slot. He gives you all that with the route running and all that. You just get the ball in his hands. He's another guy I really like. If we're talking about drafting a receiver second round,
5'7", maybe he's a good pupil for Wes Welker.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Wes Welker would look at him like, man, this guy's more explosive than I ever was. And that's how I look at it. Like, man, okay, 6'2",
perfect coach,
95-pound corner. Like, dang, I wish I could do these things. Let me coach him up and get him, to understand the other side of things. So, yeah.
Last year, or a couple of years ago, I asked Wes Welker, like, you're new to being a wide receiver coach. Is it difficult for you to coach players with different body types than you? Because you can't really relate. And he said, yeah, actually, that's been a transition. So this would be easy for him, Rondale Moore. It's like, look, you're a better athlete than me. I totally understand what you're working with. We can do this. What about corner? If there's a better corner in round 2, who would you take?
So there are some guys that I think might go late first, like a Tyson Campbell.
I like it. Georgia, right?
Eric Stokes. Yeah, Eric Stokes, the 2 Georgia corners.
Yeah.
I think if it were up to me, so there's a guy, but there's like high risk, high reward with this guy, and his name's Kelvin Joseph. When I was watching his film, it was some of the more inconsistent film I've seen. Okay. He has all the physical traits. He's like 6'1", 200 pounds or whatever, close to 200, runs in the 4.3s. Like, he's terrific from that standpoint, but his issue is he has like terrible eyes, and his terrible eyes led to not breaking on balls when he should and all these things. But when he did it great, when he was on it, it looked terrific. I mean, he had an
terrible eyes from zone, or is he like looking at the quarterback from man, or what's he doing wrong?
Both. Like it's probably the worst eyes I've ever seen. Like the worst eyes.
Okay.
You know, I watch a lot of cornerbacks.
From
it's very coachable, but he just has to. I don't know his work ethic. Is he willing to put in the work to where he's gonna buy into what the things that they're trying to teach him to try to get him to understand? And if he has that, where he wants to learn, he wants to do it, then yeah, he can be a terrific corner and would be great in that second round. I just don't know if his eyes are so bad. Like he gets caught, he'll be at the top of a drop and the quarterback, and like right when he's about to get out of his break, he just has to look at the quarterback. And he's so bad at it that he just stops his feet, and a lot of times won't even break back on the receiver. Now, it didn't hurt him too much because it seemed like a lot of times they didn't throw the ball at him when they did this, but it's just something that I noted on film where if they did throw the ball, he probably would have been in some trouble. And
the reason you say he's got to be really dedicated and work hard is, he's young, but he's been playing football a long time, and he's been playing a certain way a long time, and he's got some habits. It's probably going to be. Yeah. He
went to LSU as a freshman and transferred out of LSU to Kentucky. So I don't know why. There might be some other things with character and all that. Those are other things that take into effect why some people don't end up panning out.
All right, fair enough. Last one. It seems to me the Niners could be targeting a running back because they had so many injuries at the position last year, and they have a history of like making surprising big investments in running backs. So is there a running back you happen to like the most in this draft, and why?
Oh, man. It seems tough to have the 49ers really put a lot of resources into that position, especially like in the first 2 rounds where I know some people are like Najee Harris or trade back into the first to get Najee. I just can't see them doing that, especially when I feel like they know, hey, if their backs that they have right now stay healthy, they have a nice solid 1-2 punch. Mm-hmm. Now you can't count on them staying healthy because they've shown they just can't do it. Mm-hmm. But if they were to draft a guy, I would say maybe the kid from North Carolina. I watched a lot of Dyami Brown, and the one thing I noticed, they had 2 running backs, number 25 and number 8. Okay. Both were just, getting off. One ran all through Miami. Like, they were both good with, like it looked like an outside zone. And again, I wasn't like focusing solely on them. I was focusing more on the receiver. But it was like every game, these dudes making guys miss in space, ripping off big runs. Now, do they run 4-3s like what the 49ers running backs all do now? I don't think so. If they want somebody that kind of plays more with that speed, they might want to go with the Chuba Hubbard kid from Oklahoma State, where everybody thought he was going to run 4-3s. I think he ran 4-5, but I think he plays more at a 4-3 type speed, and the 49ers might like that. He's somebody who may drop down a little bit, maybe 4th round, 5th round, because he didn't test great. But if you're looking for a receiver that gives you that big playability, I think you like him maybe like in the 5th round or so.
Good name, that Hubbard Rock. I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Well, thanks a lot for giving me your time today, man. It's a hell of a show. I really appreciate it, dude.
Thanks for having me on. Sorry about my daughter.
No, that added to it. Hope to do it again with you sometime, and hope to see you back in California eventually.
All right. Peace out. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching.